I think I'm ready. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jennifer, you're always ready. Shoot, I don't know why I'm asking. Let's see. What's going on, guys? It's Sharif here with Boostu. Today in this module, we're gonna talk about just getting into the field, the job in general, and then get some advice too. And with my good friend, I'm gonna introduce Jennifer Borrero. What's going on, Jennifer?
Hi, Sharif. How are you?
Pretty good, doing pretty good. Thank you for joining us for this episode on Boostu. We're gonna just talk about your experience. We're gonna talk about some of the things that you work on, how to apply to the job. What type of advice can you give to people who are applying to different jobs? Maybe it's online, maybe it's in person. Any advice that you can give to people who have been stumped by COVID, anything like that, as well as your experience when you applied to the job and anything like that. Okay. And first, tell us a little about yourself, Jennifer.
Sure. So I started giving career coaching workshops in Atlanta and was doing some professional development for the Atlanta Public School District. After that, I like to say that I kind of focus my work on the intersection of technology and social equity, and I'm working on a couple of projects that seek to solve the workforce and hiring disparity issues with emerging technologies such as AI.
Yeah, okay, really cool, really cool. And how long have you been in this field?
Well, I started giving workshops at Georgia State University in about 2016, so
okay.
5 years now.
5 years, nice. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna jump into some of the questions. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, cool. All right, so for the first question, how did you prepare for the interview process before the initial interview? And this could be a general, this could be like a general question about any interview that you've been through or your previous job, etc.
So when I'm preparing for any type of interview, I basically like to print out the job description and my resume, highlight things that are clear transferable skills from my resume to the job description that copy over pretty easily,
mm-hmm.
and then also highlight the things under the duties section or responsibilities that I know maybe I haven't done or I don't have as much experience on and that they might ask me about. And already before the interview, think of scenarios or situations where I have showcased those skills. So when that question does come up, like, oh, do you have any experience with XYZ? Instead of being like, no, I don't, you already have something in your back pocket that speaks to that experience. And other than that, definitely doing your research on the company itself, any competitors that they might have, and just being as much up to date as you can be, especially if you're going to be working with any type of software or product. Mm-hmm. You definitely want to know the ins and outs of that product.
Gotcha. That last bit where you mentioned like knowing the type of software or whatever product that they're using, that's a great point that you brought up. Is there any suggestion on if somebody were to try to figure that out, how would they go about doing that? Like if that specific company were using multiple products or one specific product, how would they go about finding that information out?
So that's a good question. So some companies have products that are proprietary knowledge, so mm-hmm. only people in that company have access to that product, which is probably the most difficult because you can't really find the information online. Mm-hmm. In situations like that, I like to be very transparent and ask before you go into the interview, mm-hmm. make sure that you have at least a positive working relationship with the recruiter. So you are privy to these kinds of questions and the kinds of products that you're going to have to be using in this role. So that way, when they tell you, oh yeah, the role, you're going to be using XYZ product, mm-hmm. right off the bat, you can totally ask the recruiter where you can find some resources, prepare yourself for the interview for that specific product. If it's something like a coding language or something that's more universal, anything like YouTube and Udacity and all those different websites that have courses and classes on different products are mm-hmm. definitely useful.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you bring items with you to an interview? If so, what are they?
Yes. everyone should be bringing a 30, 60, 90-day plan to an interview. It's a for sure way to make you stand out. This is best done. It's kind of hard to do this over a phone interview. This is more when you're going into the final round. Make sure you print out, it's called a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and it's basically a plan that you create very high level of the accomplishments and things that you want to get done in the first 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days on the job if you were to get hired. So this shows some initiative on your part because you're already thinking of your training and things that you can do throughout the company and organization to start meeting people, start working cross-functionally with teams, and get up to speed. And the way that you can figure out how to actually fill this plan out is, again, using the job description. A lot of your answers to the interview are embedded in that job description. Make sure you're very knowledgeable of what they want you to do so you can start planning out how you're going to learn those things. And it's not going to be perfect by any means, but just the fact that you show up with that plan is going to put you far ahead from many other candidates because they're not thinking that far ahead. And then another tip is to make sure you know the name of each interviewer that you're going to be interviewing with and print out a personalized copy for each one. So if you were interviewing with us, you would have a copy, a 30, 60, 90-day first read and a 30, 60, 90-day plan for Jennifer. Same content, but you're personalizing it with their name.
Gotcha. That's actually really, really great. I love the 30, 60, 90. I think I figured that one out the first day that I started my job at AT&T. I just decided to create this 30, 60, 90, and I was like, wow, just creating that. And that's a good way to either do it during the interview process as well as starting the initial job. You know what I mean? So a part of the job application, do you create a cover letter if applicable to that position?
Yes, if they have the option or the button, the functionality to upload a cover letter, absolutely do it. I think most people don't like writing cover letters, but if you just skip over that entirely, you're going to put yourself behind other people who just check the box and complete it. So definitely go ahead and complete it. Even though it's not my favorite thing to do, again, I use the job description. A lot of your answers are in there to look at what they're looking for in a role, and from there draw experiences that you already have and make connections and bridges with what you're supposed to be doing in this role to show that you already have, even if you don't have lateral or equal experience, you have developed those skills.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like one of the things that sometimes I've been asked that question too, and sometimes I always see people are like, oh, should I do a cover letter or whatnot? I'm just like, you should definitely do a cover letter because you never know when the employer, they always look at applications, and even if you don't do a cover letter, well, guess what? You just missed your chance on an opportunity because somebody else completed a cover letter and then you just missed that chance. So I'm always telling people, always do a cover letter. So can you think of a question or questions during the interview process that may have stumped you, and how do you counter that question?
So I personally haven't had a question that has stumped me, but I do know, since I've worked with quite a few people, I do know someone that was asked a question that I thought was so strange. The interviewer asked her, if you could be any animal, what would you be? Random, I don't know.
Yeah.
And she answered, I think she said cat, because they're independent and kind of do their own thing, something along those lines. So sometimes interviewers do give you off-the-wall questions like that have nothing to do with the industry or the role. I think it was Google. They were known for asking very specific, strange questions. This was like earlier 2000s. They don't really do this anymore because they realized it doesn't help determine if someone is a good candidate or not.
Gotcha.
But there are some companies that still do this. For questions like that, I would definitely say, think of whatever your answer is going to be, the type of person that they want in that job. So for that animal question, even though you probably would be caught off guard, They probably are looking for a team player, someone that's a leader, someone that's not afraid to take risks, something like that. Think of, based on the role, the type of person they would want to fit in that role, and then I would think of an animal. In that case, I would think maybe like a lion or something, some type of pack leader. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I feel like it'll be interesting to know, like, what were some of the responses of people, especially at working at Google or during that interview process. Like, what would they come up with? I feel like on the spot, I would say like a lion, like that's my favorite animal, or just me being who I am. I'd probably like, oh yeah, I'm a fish, or just like a random animal that nobody was thinking of, like a green moray eel, an octopus. I don't know. That's probably something I would do. Okay, so this kind of question is going on to the after the fact of the interview process. But after getting the job, what are some activities you have done when starting the position to become successful early on?
So after landing the job, so once you get the role, if you created a 30, 60, 90 day, definitely using that as a template or a guide. I like to reach out to the hiring manager, the person that's going to be my boss, and ask, even before the start date, even if your start date is a month from now, there could be material or things that you're reading up on to get yourself up to speed. And then while you're interviewing, I like to connect with people that are in that role or in similar roles at that company on LinkedIn, so I kind of know what to expect from being in that company. So by the time you get hired, you already have a connection. You can reach out to them, let them know you got the role, you're going to be working with them soon, and just try to start building those relationships.
Exactly. Okay. After applying to a job, what are some ways you outreach or make yourself get noticed?
So definitely LinkedIn, especially now where events are not happening in person as much. I definitely leverage LinkedIn. So once I apply to a role, or even before, I like to reach out to, or I find the hiring manager or the recruiter for that specific role on LinkedIn, or I'll connect either with the recruiter, or I'll find the manager or a step up above that specific role and reach out to them, not asking for the job, not asking for them to refer me, but asking for an informational interview. So I'm just asking to connect with them to learn more about them. And as your conversation organically develops, and if you guys are kind of, vibing and it's a normal conversation, then you can mention, oh yeah, I'm thinking of applying to XYZ role, but don't make it like the center of your conversation, because it'll just seem like you're trying to use them for a referral.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Since we are held back by COVID to go to events to make connections, what are some ways you make connections?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think, is a great way to still be making professional connections. Start reaching out, connecting to folks that are in your industry, if that's where you want to grow. And if you want to switch careers, switch industries entirely, now is a great time to start connecting with people that are in your desired role, and you can start learning more about if that's something that you really want to be in. So I use LinkedIn, even if it's a cold email and they've never heard from me before. Again, using the informational interview is always helpful. There are a lot of people that like to reach out to others on LinkedIn and they just send them a resume, or they just ask them to refer them to a role. And that's kind of off-putting. Networking is like building any other type of relationship. You wouldn't ask someone you just met, like, hey, can I borrow $200? Like, that's, you have no relationship with that person. It's different than if it's your best friend and you're asking for, hey, can I borrow $50? Like, that's a different conversation. So when you're reaching out on LinkedIn, your entire goal is not to get something out of them, but actually to give. If you find a way to give something to that person that is helpful for them, that's the ideal way. And you start off by building that informational interview, learning more about their role, their career, any pain points that they might be experiencing, in their current role, and if there's any way that you can help out, making sure you're more a giver than trying to take something from them.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's a good way to put that. And regardless of, you know, this being like the 80% of this course is on being or utilizing the power of LinkedIn, I think that another source to make connections would probably be like using other forms of social media. So for instance, a lot of people of, you know, our generation, like millennials or, you know, baby boomers, etc., like all these different generations, we still use like various different platforms. So Instagram, Twitter probably being like a bigger one too. These two platforms are extremely important if you want to network, right? Not just reach out to other people and just to add them or to be a part of their friends list. No, use it, do the same thing with, you know, Twitter or Instagram as you would on LinkedIn, right? So you would reach out to other individuals and get to know their brand, get to know them, who they are. Maybe they work at the same company that you're applying to and you found them on Twitter or you found them on Instagram. Those same individuals, especially in my field as a designer, I found a ton of other professionals who are on Instagram, Twitter. They have their brand on all different sorts of social media platforms. I would do that same thing as reaching out to them or just really applying myself and reaching out and asking about them, you know. But that's just another way I thought of that is a good way to, you know, expand your network as well, and not just on LinkedIn, but still utilize LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we have the last question here. So what is 2 pieces of advice to individuals looking to get a job during this time?
2 pieces of advice for individuals looking for jobs at this time.
I know that's a cliffhanger.
Number 1, yeah. Number 1, I would say, depending on your situation, some folks have more leeway of when they can get or transition into a new role. If that's your situation, I would say prioritize networking. I know so many people preach that, so many people make that their thing, but it's people focus on that and career coaches focus on that for a reason, because it's more effective than applying online. There is no guaranteed perfect resume, a guaranteed way to get through the applicant tracking system. It just doesn't. You can increase your chances, but it just doesn't exist. Networking is always going to trump that and be your best bet. So if you have that time, spend the time building those relationships. And instead of applying to 200 jobs in a day, you're spending time nurturing like 4 or 5 relationships, and you're already going to increase your chances of getting one of those roles.
Exactly.
My second piece of advice for folks that are in dire need of a job and can't spend the time networking, I would say don't discount or not consider staffing agencies. I know some people might not think of that as their first place of employment, but staffing agencies are a really great way to find quick roles. Even if you want to transition into a new industry or a new type of role, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. A lot of the time, those roles are temp to hire. So after 6 months or a year, they'll hire you on permanently, and then you'll get, you know, your insurance, your benefits, all of that. But I would definitely say look into staffing agencies in your nearest metropolitan area that focus on the industry that you want to be in. Because there are actually quite a few contract roles, temp roles out there, and you can at least use that to fill the gaps in your resume while you're looking for your next permanent move.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it for those 2 pieces of advice and completely agree. That's a good thing that you brought up the staffing agency. I think those are really good opportunities or areas that people should not overlook, right? I think in my past, I went to probably 3 different staffing agencies. One, my friend, he actually introduced me to one, and I went to his, I had a pretty good experience looking at different jobs from that staffing agency. They had a really good website where you could actually apply, put your information in, and actually look for other pieces of work. And then I went to another one that was actually local to where I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia. They were actually pretty good too. And then those agencies, that also leaves you up to bigger and better opportunities, just like Jennifer was saying. But yeah, that's some really good pieces of advice. All right, so that actually concludes the questions. Any last thoughts you have to say to any students that are out there striving to apply themselves on LinkedIn or make connections or even just get the job that they want?
I would say be patient with yourself. I know it's very frustrating in the beginning, especially as a new graduate if you have limited to no experience. But you will get there, you will get that next job, you will figure it out, and just treat each role, even if it's not your dream job, the next one that you get, treat each role as a stepping stone to that dream role that you want to be in. And just make sure that you're maximizing your time wherever you're at, and you're taking advantage of the resources you have and learning as much as possible.
So I got another question for you, Jennifer, about working remotely. What can you tell us about the possibilities of working remote and different opportunities that are arising from different companies, especially during this time? We're in 2021, and for the viewers out there, whenever you're reviewing this course, we're in 2021 right now, where it's COVID-19 heavy, and hopefully, you know, later on we'll get out of this and the world opens back up, etc. But Jennifer, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think COVID-19 acted as a catalyst and just accelerated what was going to happen inevitably, and that's the transition to work from home. So more industries, specific industries like tech, were already on that fast path to working from home. So I think it definitely accelerated that, and a lot of companies are seeing that it's beneficial for them as well to have their employees work remotely. One big stigma before was that, oh, employees aren't going to work as hard, or they're not going to be able to get stuff done. It's going to negatively affect our bottom line operationally. But we're actually seeing the opposite. Studies are showing that the average person spends more time working when they're working from home than when they're working in the office, because you kind of blur that boundary between work-life balance. So you find yourself being on your computer working late into the evening time. But I think companies are seeing that it's beneficial for them as well. They don't have to spend money on leases for commercial office buildings and other things like that to house, to have headquarters in specific metropolitan areas for employees. I definitely see companies moving more towards having these hubs, that they'll still have these hubs in common areas where you can come and almost have it be like a co-working space, and have like a desk and do some work there, but it won't be as intense as having a headquartered branch where you have to come work. And the remote work is here to stay for a lot of industries, for a lot of companies. For me, it was a positive experience. Some people have noticed that they prefer going into the office and having that differentiation between their work and their home life. But yeah, everyone's been having a very different experience with it, and I'm excited to see how the workforce continues to adapt. Awesome,
perfect. All right, thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for interviewing with Boostu.academy. I'm sure that if people wanted to reach out to you, is there any form of communication that you prefer people to reach out to? Like, is it LinkedIn, any messages or any commenting like that, email, whatever it is, let me know and I'll post it like in a graphic on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so for Instagram, it's at jen.borrero. For Twitter, I actually can't remember my Twitter handle right now, but I'll let you know, and it'll be linked below as well.
Okay. Can you, okay, so I actually dropped my phone at the same time you said that, but can you repeat the Instagram part? Okay. My bad.
Okay. I forgot my Instagram, all my social media for some reason. I want to make sure it's at the dot and not an underscore. Okay, for that.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so for social media, you can follow me on Instagram at jen.borrero, Borrero.
Right.
And then for LinkedIn, Jennifer Borrero as well.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, bye.